Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, welcome to Paranormal Karen. It's our Halloween episode. We have ghost stories for you, a bunch of stuff. But before, I want to say thank you to my friend Shanna Warwick at Black Boots. Boots, I said that right, Shanna? Black Boots. BLCKBTS. You have to check out her stuff and sign up for her email. She makes the most beautiful clothing and cloth, and she sent me this fabulous altar cloth that I have to say I use it for quite a few more than an altar cloth. I love it so much. So thank you, Shanna. It really touched me so much. I'm so graciously gratitude for the gift. I have gratitude for your lovely gift and your blessings. And everybody, it is Halloween weekend, and we are going to jump right in. Today, I have one of my favorite comics. We have done. We did a Montreal audition together, Brian, for like 5 people, didn't we?
I think so, yeah. I've done quite a few of those.
Yes, Brian Scolaro, right? I said that right.
Yeah, that's good. Perfectly correct. That's right.
And we were, I don't know, we've been all over the place together. And so before we even start, tell everybody, where's your website? Where can they watch you? What's happening?
Well, right now, my name is Brian Scolaro. I have a book out called How to Punch a Monkey, and it's all just jokes like George Carlin's Brain Droppings. That's on Amazon, How to Punch a Monkey. I have a new album called Then and Now, which is my first act from 1995 or 93, and the last act from 2019. And just something to do during COVID since I can't perform. And that's on all platforms called Then and Now. And I have a website, and you can get all the links there at brianscolaro.com. SCOLARO.
And that'll be in the show notes. And Brian, so we never ever got a chance to talk ghosts. You always told me you had stories. Where is home? Where does your stories begin?
Well, the first part is several different cities, but the first part takes place in upstate New York. I used to work at a camp for mentally handicapped adults.
Okay,
and
I already have to say, my parents are in upstate New York, and my sister is there, and I'm there all the time.
Right. But the thing is that this property was owned by very religious people called the Maris brothers. And so it's been around forever. And there's several old buildings there, and people have seen tons of ghosts. I never saw anything there. And at a point, I really kind of wanted to, because I was a kid, and I wanted to see something. But I didn't. And it's my firm belief that once a ghost or spirit that isn't residual makes contact with you, whether it's through touch or feeling or sight or moving something, then it opens up a piece of your brain that you begin to see more and more. Or the spirits notice that there's something about you that's open, and they show themselves to you. So when I wanted to see something, I didn't. Mm-hmm. And then the story changes when I was performing. I was opening for Jay Moore at the San Jose Improv in San Jose, California. This improv is 2 levels. There's a mezzanine. There's the main level, and there's a balcony. And the green room is behind the balcony. And so I took it upon myself one day to go from the green room to the bathroom. And as I walked past the balcony, I felt I was going to get in trouble for being there. I felt that I was going to be in trouble. So it affected me so much that for the rest of the week, I walked downstairs, through the lobby, back up the stairs to use the bathroom, the other staircase, just avoiding behind the balcony.
I have a question. Were you thinking that you were going to get in trouble from someone in the club was going to yell?
Exactly. My instinct was that I was going to get in trouble, that I wasn't supposed to be there. So I avoided behind the balcony for the rest of the weekend. Now, keep that in mind. Okay. Next year is 2004. I'm with my girlfriend at the time. We're driving through the woods in New Jersey to house sit for her aunt, or for her aunt and uncle. We get to the house. We're in the middle of an argument. She wound up being bipolar, so there was no way to fix this. We got into a giant argument. I stormed out of the house. She came back and picked me up, and we went to bed, but I was so mad that I couldn't sleep next to her, so I found another bedroom and slept there. Now, I have this strong feeling that there's someone in the doorway angry at me. It affected me so. I wasn't thinking ghost. I thought it was my imagination. And it went on for hours. I mean, hours, where I couldn't even look at the doorway. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Or, what's going on? Why am I so worried? And finally, I was able to pass out. The next morning, we're eating breakfast. Everything's fine. And I was like, and as almost as a joke, I said, is this place haunted? She goes, yes. My grandmother was severely bipolar and said schizophrenia. And her ghost is here, and she moves things around. I was like, she was mad that we were arguing, and I didn't sleep next to you. She was mad that I went to the other bedroom. And from that moment on, I started to feel things. And I didn't even think it was a ghost at the time. You got to understand how like, it was, I thought it was my imagination, and I had to control my imagination to be able to fall asleep.
Right.
So now I go back to, now the year is 2009, 2010. I'm opening for Ben Bailey from Cash Cab at the San Jose Improv. Now I'm there, and then he's performing. I'm in the green room. I walk backstage. I walk past the balcony to use the bathroom, and I have the feeling I'm going to get in trouble. So I said to myself, I'm a grown man. I'm not going to get in trouble. What the hell am I afraid of?
Yeah.
So for the rest of the week, I just walked behind the balcony to use the bathroom. And then I started watching Ben while sitting in the balcony. At this point, San Jose Improv wasn't doing great. The balcony was empty. So I'm the only person up there watching Ben perform. I see a waitress, a young female, I would say white, Caucasian, wearing all black, in her early teens, coming at me to see if I want a drink. I look over, she's not there. I go, oh, okay. The next night, I'm watching Ben perform from the balcony. I see the waitress coming at me through between the seats. I look over, she's not there again. So I go, what am I seeing? So now I watch, I'm not thinking ghosts, but I know that on the show Ghost Hunters, when something happens, the first thing I do is, well, is the exit sign flickering, causing shadows to dance? Is the little dots of light on the stairs causing fluctuations? So I look over and there's nothing. I go, what the hell am I seeing? The next night, it happens again. And I literally say, what the fuck? And I look over and there's nothing there again. So now, the show's over.
This is the same woman every time.
Yeah, same time. She was very young. So now we're all in the green room, hanging out with the manager, Justin, and Barback. I can't remember his name. Oscar, we'll call him. So we're all hanging out in the green room. And so Justin is telling a story to the Barback about how they had musicians in the afternoon. And the musicians were setting up their musical instruments in the afternoon. And the head musician said to Justin, whose little girls are those on the balcony? And Justin said, oh, no, let's not talk about that. And the Barback starts laughing. So I go, what are you talking about? He goes, there's two little girls on the balcony, ghosts, and they play tricks on us. And I get, they've been playing tricks on me all weekend. And he goes, yeah, but that's not as bad as the guy who lives behind the balcony.
Oh.
And I said, that guy has been scaring me for like 10 years. And he goes, yeah, when I'm left alone here at night, he pounds the walls. He smacked him in the face. Oscar says, yeah, I stayed over one night because my parents kicked me out. I was watching TV in the green room, and the ghost slapped my face. So he's violent and angry, and it turns out that some ghost hunters investigated San Jose Improv because it used to be a movie theater, and two little girls died, as well as another guy, and some other people. So you got to wonder if the girls see the guy, but the guy is not happy, and the two girls are making jokes.
Right, and
so now
I wonder if they have territory.
Exactly, or if they even see each other. You know. So now I start watching ghost shows because at this point now I'm interested. Because now I've had three experiences really. So I'm watching a show on Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring on Cielo Drive. The house is no longer there, but now there's a new house just right next to it. And the guy in that house hires the ghost hunters to come to his house. Now he has footage of him having a party and them being disturbed by what they think is Jay Sebring.
I know this guy. This is David Oman. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. There was also a second show he was on. I think it was called Paranormal Witness, where they have footage of them having a seance, and when they're talking to Sharon Tate, the flame of the candle goes to the left. And they say they see Jay Sebring standing outside a window when it's 3 floors up, and that he threw a champagne bottle across the room, and that they've seen Sharon Tate walking around in a towel. And so the ghost hunters are there, and they do the little flashlight communication thing, where, like, turn the flashlight on for yes, leave it off for no. And they say, are you Jay Sebring? And it says yes. And they say, does Sharon Tate know she's dead? And Sharon Tate, it just says no. Are you here to protect Sharon Tate? And the flashlight goes yes. Which is Jay Sebring was deeply in love with Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
So now, if this is true, whatever, it's now been documented through video evidence and was on 2 different shows. So my new girlfriend, who also, this time wasn't bipolar, but borderline personality disorder, so I can really pick them. Okay. We decide as we're driving through the area, let's go to Cielo Drive. Let's go. We've never been there before. So we drove up because we had just watched the show. So it's a private driveway, and you can get in trouble. We drive up. It's so small that you can't even turn around. You got to back up. So we drive up, and now we're like 6 feet away from the house, and we stop. And I go, I say, can you believe it? My engine's running. We're looking at the car. We're looking at the house, and I say, can you believe it? It's like 2 separate haunting shows. Both say this house is really haunted with Jay Sebring and Sharon Tate. And I say, can you believe it? And as we're looking at the house, there's a sudden loud noise like somebody kicked the car door, the driver's side car door. And my engine goes dead. Yeah, which, spirits use electricity to manifest, to do things. So we don't think it's a ghost right away. We just go, what the hell was that? So we turn the engine on. It starts. This is a brand new car, brand new. Mm-hmm. And we do reverse, and we get the hell out of there. And as we're driving, I said, do you think that was a ghost? And we realized, and there was a dent in my car, a dent in where it was kicked, my door.
Wow.
So Jay Sebring, if you believe this, Jay Sebring, I was attacked by a famous ghost. Jay Sebring does not want people to treat Sharon like an oddity. And he came and scared us out. My final story.
Oh, yeah, I had to tell you, I was, so I know David, and I haven't had him on the show yet, and everything, he's a little out there, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why it's hard to believe him a little bit.
Yeah, and he's haunted. He's his own haunted. Yeah. And I don't think he would deny that. But I got invited out there twice and never made it. And I couldn't get my GPS to work. My friend was like, I'm standing out in the street right in front of it. I could not, I seriously think that my guides won't let me go there. And I know that sounds crazy, but you talking about that kicking the door, I think that could have been that ghost, or it could have been your guy. Like, you're absolutely right about now you're sort of permeable to these ghosts or to whatever's going on. And I think that place is a little nefarious. I think it's a little dark.
I would. Yeah, during a seance, they had this on camera. During a seance, the woman who was the woman in was all of a sudden became Sharon Tate and started screaming, and it was in pain, like she was getting stabbed. And also, it's like they have footage of them holding a video camera, and the ghost grabs it out of their hands. And Jay Sebring seems pretty angry, if it is him, because they've seen him there, standing outside the window, and he's throwing things around it. And so it makes sense that it would be him protecting her, because that's what he always did.
Right.
That was his whole life, was protecting her. So
and he failed. So in a weird way, I know you can't really protect anyone from everything, but in a way he failed. So he could be reliving that over and over and over.
Yeah, and it seems like she doesn't know she's dead. And the great thing about ghost hunters is they have an EVP of a woman yelling, "Why is there so much blood?" It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Now, my last story is I always heard about the Manchester house in Seattle. I always heard that there's a ghost hunter branch there in Seattle, downtown Seattle, and the woman always said, you come with us to the Manchester house. I said, I don't really have time. So one day I'm playing Seattle, playing the Comedy Underground, and they take me to the condo. It's a small little house in the middle. It's an apartment building, and it's a walk up. There's no elevator. It's really old. And we get up to the top, and it's nice. The janitor is showing me. And I get to the top floor, and it used to be a whorehouse, he told me. So we get to the top, and the apartment clearly was apartment that used to be two smaller apartments, like 2 rooms for you to have sex in.
Right.
And we walk past the bedroom.
I have that at my place.
Yeah. So I walk past the bedroom. You got to understand, none of these times, except for none of these times do I think ghost right away. Maybe to Jay Sebring time, but I don't think ghost right away. So I walk past the bedroom and I go, I'm not going in there. It's dark. Like there's something really dark about the bedroom. So it doesn't matter. So the whole week I'm basically sleeping in the living room because the bedroom just scares me a little bit. I don't know why it scares me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not thinking ghosts. So then downstairs there is a bar and restaurant on the first floor. The bartender is talking to a waitress and said, add another one. And she said, what happened? He goes, somebody used the bathroom downstairs and they fell down the stairs and died last week. What? And she goes, you got to be kidding me. She goes, yeah, now we're going to have another ghost in here. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, this place is full of ghosts. And then I look outside. It's the Manchester house. I'm staying in the Manchester house.
Whoa.
The most haunted place in all of Seattle. And I go, this is the condo? This is the comedy condo where they're keeping me? So I go upstairs. Now my TV's on and the ceiling fan's on. And the oscillating fan's on. And none of that was on. And the lights are all on.
Wow.
And I turned everything off. So I turned everything off again. And I said, and so that night, the bartender also told me a story that he stayed there in the exact same condo I was in. And while he was sleeping, all the cupboards started opening and closing. And he said, okay, you scared me, you win. And it stopped.
Wow.
So it's a lightning storm going on that night. So everything's going haywire. And so I looked at the oscillating fan, and I said, are you here? Can you stop the fan if you are? And the fan stops.
Ooh.
And I said, just to make sure it's not a coincidence, can you make it start again? And it starts. And I said, okay, listen, are you upset that I'm here? And it turns off. And I said, okay, I'm going to offer you a deal. I won't go in the bedroom. I'll stay here. I have to stay here. I have nowhere else to go. This is your apartment. It's not mine. They put me here, and I have to stay here till Tuesday. 2 more days. I won't go in the bedroom at all. Is that okay? Could you stop bothering me if I do that? And then it stopped again. So meaning yes. And so those are my ghost stories. Wow. And it's weird. It's weird because none of that happened ever to me. Like, yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to see a ghost in upstate New York, and I never did. But once one ghost communicated to me with anger, I all of a sudden had all these experiences. And so that's what's weird. It's like once one communicates with you through empathy or through touch or sight, it just all of a sudden keeps happening.
Yeah, and well done in the way of a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes if it is a human ghost, like it was in the Manchester, all it needs is a little respect. You got your turf, I've got mine. That's actually a whole different conversation too. I know you. Do you remember Akron Hilarities? Akron. No, I never played Akron. I've done the other Hilarities in Cleveland, but never Akron. Akron Hilarities. I forgot. I have some ghost stories. Akron Hilarities used to be a church. The club was upstairs. You stayed downstairs. And they locked you in, and right, and it was like an office. It was like a hard glass door, and I don't even know what country the guys were that owned the place.
They locked you in. Why would they lock you in? It's gotta be illegal.
Well, they had something where I can't remember what it was with the lock, but it was like you couldn't open it, or there was something like you couldn't just get out. Because I remember thinking that, and I fell asleep on the couch one day, and a little boy started jumping on me while I was half asleep, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a ghost." Also, and the bottom was so scary. You know what? Churches, brothels, all crazy haunted, just whatever is going on.
Yeah.
And that was actually probably what happened one day was I heard through the wall, you're in this tiny room, I heard something come through the wall and then a head print on the pillow next to me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And
that's wow.
Insane. I will tell you my favorite ghost story and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
When I was in Pennsylvania, the Houdini Museum, the people that run the Houdini Museum will come to the shows all the time, and they're just fabulous people. And they had some ghost hunters to their museum, which has all his original stuff, and it's crazy haunted. The place, but all of Pennsylvania is just insanely haunted. And the ghost hunters are setting up, and then above them, they hear like, you know those big show business, like musicians have them, the big cases, and they got the wheels on them and they got everything in them. They're about 5 feet tall. Yeah. They hear someone shove that all the way across the ceiling, like just all the way across. And then they look at the guy and they go, the guy that owns it, they go, is somebody upstairs? And he goes, there's no upstairs.
Wow. It's so interesting. You know, Houdini always wanted to prove that he would come back after death. So interesting. That was his thing.
You know, do we still know what he had a password with his wife that you would, they had a word that if a medium could get that word,
interesting. How interesting is that?
I know.
That didn't happen, I'm guessing.
Not that I know of, although I have to look, because I don't know, but it is very interesting because I think he probably came to her. I think they maybe not to someone else.
I'd imagine so. I mean, I tell you, it's so interesting. I mean, it's so. I mean, the fact that I was possibly attacked by the very famous celebrity ghost is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. You know, but it's.
I'll kick myself for this. My friend Calvin was doing he's a skeptic, and he was doing he had an object or something that was a Ouija board, I think it was, and he had a picture of the guy that owned it. And he said, aren't you psychics and mediums? Whose is this? No one has ever gotten it right. And in my head, I heard Sam Elliott. And I thought, this kid is too young to even know who Sam Elliott is. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
And it was Elliott.
Wow.
I know. And I was like, because you don't get a win.
That is fascinating. I just want to say this about skeptics, is that the original Ghost Hunters with Jason and Grant, I really like that show because what they did, the original, I mean, it's different now. What they did was they would have whole episodes where nothing happened.
Yeah.
And they'd have like a whole season where nothing happened. And the whole point was that probably 80% of all hauntings can be ruled out, but that still leaves 20% that possibly happened. And why not make a study of it and collect data? And thanks to them, so much data was collected. And it's just, you have to be smart. You know, like I remember one of my girlfriends who was normal, but of course she left because she was normal. She kept saying there was a ghost in the house because the freezer kept opening. And I was like, well, close the fridge. And she closed the fridge. And we wait 2 seconds, and the freezer would open. I was like, it's just you closing the fridge too hard. And the freezer opens. She's like, oh, okay. So it's like you have to have a brain about you, you know. And that's why skeptics. I always say this: if you say to yourself that the people who believe in ghosts are stupid, I don't believe that, because people who believe in ghosts say, I don't know everything. Maybe ghosts exist. People who don't believe in ghosts say, I know everything. I think ghosts don't exist.
Right.
But which one sounds stupider? The fact that you think you know everything or the fact that you don't know everything?
Right.
It's a no-brainer to me.
And
anyway.
Calvin is my favorite because he's very open. But yes,
okay.
You know, I have guys that I have backup when people ask me questions. Like I have a guy I went to where these people kept seeing their mist, and he literally then sent me how a refrigerator works and told me what was wrong with their refrigerator, that it was emitting a gas. And I was like, all right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We got all your stuff in there in the show notes, and everybody go go get Brian's book or watch his special. He is so
please. I haven't worked since February. Please help me out.
Yes, help him out, and he's so funny. He's helping you out when you watch his stuff. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. You take care, Karen. Bye bye.
Okay, bye, hon. Hey, everybody! Just a short message. Chicago got canceled because of COVID, and I will not be at the Cambry House. Or at least not Halloween weekend. I think I have something working up with my friend for next year. So I just wanted to let you know I will not be in Chicago or the Cambry House this weekend. Please take care. We're getting ready for November. Okay, and this is sort of odd because I interviewed Dawn, and now I'm talking to Frank. And Frank, Dawn and I were giggling. Pronounce your last name properly for us.
It is Barrecos.
Barrecos. We.
Yes.
How long has she been married to you?
Going on 4 years.
Okay, she's got to get that down. So, folks, this is flipped in how I interviewed you guys, but you'll understand later. But Frank, real quick, tell me, because it's Halloween night, we're doing ghost stories. You're going to tell us your best ghost story, but how long have you been, or I guess you guys have the baby now, you're not doing as much investigating?
Yeah, it's difficult for us to go anywhere and investigate. So it's been a while. Recently, we were able to go to a cemetery, actually Friday the 13th. This past Friday the 13th, we went to a local cemetery. And before that, it had probably been at least a year since we investigated.
Well, that's going to make a great story when your kids are in college and they're going to be like, I don't know, our parents went nuts and now they're in all these haunted places. We don't know what happened. They were good for 20 years and now they're out there. So, but you had been an investigator for so long, and I'm going to let you lead. What is either one or two of the scariest things that a ghost story for the folks listening?
Okay. Well, gosh, I don't know. I've been to so many places in the last 18 years of investigating. So I would say the most active location that I've been to for everybody that knows me would be Camarillo State Hospital.
Right.
In Camarillo. And I've been to so many places, but Camarillo by far is probably the most active location anywhere that I could think of that I've investigated. And probably anywhere on the West Coast.
Wow. And it's gone now, right?
Yes. It's a university. It's been a university for some time now. However, there were a few buildings that were empty, and we had access to those buildings a long time ago. Not anymore. But I had been going there for almost a decade.
And we all know when you have an incredibly haunted place, the best thing to do is knock it down and put a university there with a whole bunch of kids. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It's like, what was the I did the last investigation there. What was it? The hospital, Linda Vista, turned it into old age home and then wondered why everyone was moving out.
Right.
So, So you were probably at Camarillo a lot, probably familiar with the ghosts there.
Oh, yes. I actually built a rapport with a lot of the spirits there. Going there for so many years, it's kind of funny that they got to know me, believe it or not, and by name. Because there was times where, obviously as an investigator, you're constantly recording. So I would capture a lot of EVPs. And many of the spirits knew my name and would call out to me. So I had it happen almost every single time I investigated there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrifying enough. I think I had.
It's almost like, and not only that, but it's I always got a sensation that they knew I was coming, which is weird. The only location that I could ever say that ever happened, where if I was on my way there, I felt like they knew I was coming. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the only person. I know Joe Mendoza, a few other investigators that have been going there for a long time have said the same thing, that they always felt like the spirits knew they were coming, and they almost like they expected us.
Yeah, there's some sort of telepathy or something, and they know.
Yeah.
So what was probably, I've seen some stories about Camarillo, but probably, have you seen full body apparitions there?
Yes, we have.
Oh, okay. Tell us about that.
Wow. Let me see. Probably, I could think of the adolescent ward, where in the second floor, where we've seen
well, dark shadow figures and actual apparitions starting to manifest in front of us.
What does that look like?
It's like a white, misty figure that just starts to take form. And, first we sense something in front of you, and, you just start looking into it, but it just starts to manifest and it starts to take form. And what I've seen is like a white mist that starts to manifest into the silhouette of a person or a spirit.
Wow. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I had a few negative type entities that I've seen as well, particularly in unit number 44, which was in the unit that we visited a lot because the amount of activity there was just so intense. And we did encounter a male spirit that was very large in size, and we were able to tell by the silhouette. Again, it was a dark figure standing in front of us that would come towards us. But then it got to the point after several investigations that we started to challenge him. And it sounds strange.
What? Because when you see that, so you see this dark figure. Can you see through it, or it's just on the wall, or what does it look like?
You can't see through it. It's dark as it is, but you could still see the figure moving back and forth down the hall.
Wow.
It's pretty cool, but scary at the same time, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Regular folks don't understand that. Sometimes as a paranormal investigator, you are caught in two emotions. Do I run, or what the hell is this? I need to see it.
Right. And, we came in contact with just so many spirits. And for those people that don't know, I mean, the hospital was opened in 1933, closed in 1997. And was abandoned since then. And the state turned it into a university between 1997 and 2001.
Now, you said Unit 44. Do you know, was that... So this hospital, was it a mental hospital? Was it
yes.
Okay, which is always the worst.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Had a lot of history of deaths, thousands of deaths there. 44, we kind of just came across it just by going into different buildings, and we just started noticing that activity in there. And it's strange, to say, but it's just we started to connect with the spirits there through the EVPs that we were getting, and in one particular bathroom, there was a spirit that we came in contact with that we felt that she had been sexually assaulted, possibly, or raped. And we had got that information through EVPs, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I remember some of this story. Yeah, that was sort of her spot, and she didn't like men coming in there, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. In fact, the very first time that I was there with an old friend of mine, and we were investigating, and it was just him and myself. And as we walked into the shower area, it was like a wall of energy that just started to push us back. And we both felt it at the same time. And we said, oh my God, there's something here that does not want us here. We both took a step back at the same time. And we just did not want to go in. And for seasoned investigators, for us, that was like, wow, this is like the first time we ever felt something this strong. So we set a recorder in there and then just let the recorder play. And we started to get recordings of a female voice. And she was crying, and you could hear her whimpering as well. Several visits later, that's when we started to get the EVPs talking about, oh, he was on top of me, get him off of me, and she would cry. And then we did get an EVP of a male. I'm not sure who caught it. Somebody in our group had caught it that said, so-and-so raped her. It was clear, just like that.
Now,
yeah, it was pretty sad.
And would that go on almost every time you were there?
Yes.
That was a loop that was repeating.
Yes, but they were intelligent spirits, and it wasn't residual. They're very active, but like I said, very intelligent. They were able to interact with us. They saw what we were doing. They tried to communicate desperately with us many times, and they were very conscious of what we were doing and why we were there.
So
only location.
When they were trying to get your attention, what was it because you said they were trying to desperately communicate with you. Were they trying to get out? Were they trying to warn you? What was happening?
They just wanted to be heard. I think they wanted to communicate and let us know what was going on there, I believe. I mean, it's almost like there was a working hospital, and in their consciousness, it was still a hospital. But at the same time, some of these spirits there wanted to tell their stories, and they got our attention by slamming doors, by moving objects, by stomping on the floor. I mean, it was just, we would hear footsteps very loud down the hallway. Wow. And that's the only location that you can get almost any type of activity instantly at the moment you walk in.
Now, did you ever have anything follow you home from there?
No, I didn't feel that. My wife, Dawn, did. She felt like something did follow her home once. Wow. And it wasn't pleasant at all.
No. So what did you think? Was there anything negative, non-human there?
Non-human, no. Everything that I did encounter there, it seemed like they were spirits that were there from the past, like former patients or even staff.
Wow, so it almost sounds like a safe haunt. I know that sounds weird, but to me it sounds a little bit like, I don't know, when you get into like, what was that place up in Fresno? The
Wolf Manor?
The Wolf Manor and stuff like that, where it really was, at least it was safe and the activity was good. So what in the paranormal have been this very scariest thing where it really stayed with you?
Well, let's see.
And you know what? And I have to say this because when you're not a scared guy. You're a big guy. You're a tough guy. Somebody's not going to take you on. So if it's scary to you, I'm terrified. And because you were a seasoned investigator, it's more than like you just saw a dark figure and like, yeah, so we kind of watched it wobble down the stairs like it was nothing. So have you ever run into anything you thought was demonic or way out of your pay grade?
Well, other than Camarillo, no. There was one incident that did happen there at Camarillo, unit number 44, with that male spirit, the big entity that I told you about that we encountered there. The friend that was with me, he had taken some holy water and spread it inside the shower room. And as we walked into the hallway, I felt a spirit coming towards us, and he was not happy about that. He didn't like that, obviously, and he came towards us, and that's when I felt like it was very negative. But it's the only time ever happened to me where I felt like it started to. I started to channel that spirit, and it almost possessed me, because at one point I wanted to hit him for doing that. It was straight. It was weird. I started to make a fist and look at him, and I wanted to hit him so bad and just punch him. And I took a stance against him. So he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I felt faint, like I was going to faint, but at the same time I wanted to hit him. But I felt the anger from that spirit.
You know, that's an interesting thing, because I know you have walk-ins where the thing literally, the person becomes that person, where sometimes they're not conscious, but you were conscious of the whole thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Like I said, I felt like I was going to faint, but at the same time, like I was conscious, like you said. And I just wanted to hit him. At that point, they had to practically carry me out of that unit downstairs and outside into fresh air. And that's when I started to come to, and I just felt like, oh my God, like what just happened?
Wow. Did you, and this is very interesting, were you aware, so you weren't aware as though someone else was in, it was just a mood that took you over?
Right.
I've been on so many ghost hunts with skeptics, and sometimes I wonder if the spirits do this on purpose, but I've been where there have been big guys like you, and all of a sudden they'll look at me and go, I don't know what's wrong, but I think I'm going to cry. And not that it's funny. That's not, I don't want to make fun of any, because men, please feel free to cry, but it's always the skeptic. And it's like something gets too close that they pick up that emotion and they're ready to cry. And, wow, that's amazing, because, I would be afraid if you were suddenly going to try and hit me, because you are, like I said, not a wimp. So that must have been, so all of a sudden you came to and you were like, what happened? Wow. That's bad enough.
Yeah. And then, right after that, we played the audio we had been recording the whole time. And we did hear the male spirit, and he threatened us. And he said, "Get out of here." Of course, you always get to get out. But he was just like, "Get out of here." And that happened at the moment that I wanted to hit him. Wow. That I caught that recording. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, that's perhaps what's available to us on the other side. So we can come back and try and punch the people we wanted to. Well, awesome. Well, Frank, do you have anything you guys want to promote or want me to put in the show notes where people can see you or to hear your stories?
Well, I don't have too much going on right now that I can promote, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's been a while. I'm in the process of writing a book, though, on my investigations there at Camarillo. So I'm in the process of doing that. Hopefully, I get more time to work on it. But other than that, I really don't have too much. Like I said, it's just difficult with the kids and the baby and getting out investigating. So
it's a whole
we've got to put that on the back burner.
It's a whole different type of nightmare with kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Frank, thanks for that. And listen, when you get your book together, give me a call. I'm sure everybody will want to hear. The stories are fascinating. But thanks for making my Halloween episode great.
Oh, thank you. No problem. Thank you.
All right. Hang on, folks. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Let me tell you about my friend Elaine Hathaway. She's not just an incredible tarot reader. I know because I had a reading. She also does curse breaking, healing and prosperity magic, and the removal of dark entities. I had a client that was constantly being bothered by a dark entity. I sent her to Elaine, and man, she cleared that situation up right away. It was so impressive. She does so many things. Please check out her website at therisingmoon.com. There you can click on our YouTube channel and take a look at her because you're going to feel like curse breaking and the removal of dark entities. This is a little old woman sitting in the corner of the room with a hood and a cape. No, she is the loveliest person. She does so many things other than tarot. Please check out her website at therisingmoon.com. You can also hear her October 23rd on this show at therisingmoon.com. All your paranormal and metaphysical needs will be met there. All right, everybody. One of my favorite guests, closing out Halloween episode, Jeff Thill. And actually, what's funny, Jeff, you're either on the week before or the week after talking about the Anunnaki. So I'm here to bother you again. How are you today?
Really good. Thank you. Yeah. Doing just fine. Staying healthy,
Yeah.
So knock on wood.
That's all we got, Jeff. That's all we got.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You got that right.
I should be in Chicago right now. Well, this comes out because I've been doing a little on the road, and we'll see if I make it. Otherwise, you should make a Halloween episode and try and contact me. How about that?
That sounds good. I like that. Yeah. Why not?
Right. So you have another ghost story for me, Jeff. I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me, you always have the best stories. What was happening?
Well, so these, Karen, these aren't ones that happen to me directly in my house. However, these also aren't random tales from some friend of a friend who knew a guy who was friends of somebody. I know that really guy. Memorable. What's that?
I know that guy.
I know that guy. No, it's true. No. Oh, wait, I heard it was his aunt. No. It was his grandmother. These are incredibly kind of jarring, odd, unique tales of, paranormal activity that happened to members of my family who are direct members of my family, not, my weird uncle that I never see who lives on a, ranch out in the middle of nowhere. And all throughout my childhood, these stood out as just, what the heck is going on with that story? They're just like nothing I'd ever heard before. And if you don't mind, I have just much like a movie of the week or whatever. I have 3 tales of terror.
Awesome! I'm so excited.
Or at least oddness. So, if we were tuning in the 70s to a trilogy of terror on the movie of the week, this would be your first one because it's kind of the shortest one. But let's try to imagine, you guys, that it is the late 1950s. And you are my aunt, and you are,
attractive. I'm attractive.
There you go. But you're a young mother with your first kid, and back then, people love to drive to each other's houses and play bridge and cribbage, and these are card games for some of you that are a little bit younger. And and it was a big event, and you would bring the cheese dip and the fondue and whatever. I guess that's more 60s, excuse me. But so, and they would drive.
I have to tell you, Anita Milner's is a funny comedian, and one day her little grandson came up to her. She was playing solitaire on the computer, and he said, "Do you think you could play that with cards?"
Wow.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, and for him, he's deconstructing it. It's like, yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone's tried. Yeah, I don't think he could do it alone.
Okay, so yes, so people would go play bridge and gather.
Well, yeah. So it may seem weird to people, but it wasn't uncommon for, hey, gals, let's all get in so-and-so's, station wagon, and we will drive, 35, 40 minutes out into the middle of nowhere to go visit our friend who has a cabin in the woods of Wisconsin. And we'll drink, white wine and play bridge and cribbage, and then we'll all drive home. Okay.
And keep in mind, this is back when you could get pretty much 30, 40 DUIs before anyone.
Well, and I wasn't trying to emphasize that point, because in this case, they all really were angels. They really didn't, drink to excess and then get behind the wheel and start chain smoking. And they didn't have their kid, just sitting in the back without a seatbelt. They were pretty good moms there. Anyway, so imagine they had a great time, and it is now 11:30 at night. And for those of you that can't quite imagine this, or you've never been out in the woods in a rural area like this, it's nothing but pine trees and oak trees and little tiny paths that cut through thick forests. And when I say, this isn't even a road, you guys, this is basically two dirt rivets amongst a bunch of mossy grass, right? So they were driving what seemed like forever, 20 or 30 minutes down this little, two rutted road path. And again, it's nothing but deep, deep forest as far as the eye can see. And this is not the year 2020. So back then, a cabin might be here, but you wouldn't see another cabin for another 20 miles or 15 miles.
And no cell phone.
And no cell phones. And when you get to the middle of the thickest part of these woods, the only thing you should expect to ever see, you hear where I'm going here already with this, right? Is a rabbit, a deer, maybe you might catch a black bear, that would be a real sighting, but that's it. So, and I doubt that their brights were very good back then on these cars. I think it was mostly just normal headlamps, kind of dim. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of zoning out and talking and chatting and having a good time.
Talking about the big bridge game.
Up ahead, about 20 or 30 feet, all of them see a woman, ghostly pale, long black hair. I say this because they all describe the same thing. And let me set the scene again here. There are maybe 3 women in the back and 2 women up front. So that's five people. And she steps out into the center of the path. And then as the car approaches, and the car's only going about, 15 miles an hour, you guys, she sees the car, steps back kind of behind a couple trees, kind of into the woods again, and they just drive right past her. And all of them whip their heads around their necks to see what it was that they just saw. And they see her momentarily staring at them as they drive off. And then she just kind of fades back into the woods. Ugh. And now I got to say that, if it had been me, as jarring as that would be, I would like to believe that I would stop, back up, and take a chance and try to help the person. What in the hell is this poor girl doing in the middle of the woods?
We like to think we're like that. I think I would maybe, but if I was alone, well, we got cell phones now, so we would call for backup.
Well, of course, very different. Yeah. And it's so shocking and so strange. And so they are stunned. They just kind of keep driving. And, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes for them to open up and start talking to each other in the car. And they all describe the same thing. And I'm not talking about somebody who was wearing normal clothes, a normal white dress. This was very out of place. It was a long, flowing white gown, almost like you would picture at a wedding or a formal event.
Or a nightgown?
She was absolutely deathly pale. Nobody described her as transparent, but it just made no sense. There's absolutely not a cabin within 10 or 15 miles of there. And I'm sorry, guys, there's no ending to the story in terms of it was resolved this way, or there's no Scooby-Doo ending. But
that's all right. That's still
creepy.
It's not only is it freaky. I also wonder if there's an instinct. There's an instinct that that's not human. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it wasn't a hunter. Oh, a couple, that could be a hunter in the middle of the night that you pass and you see he's got his gun and you're not scared. And that guy, he's got his thing going on. But I wonder if the instinct was so like, that they just couldn't talk.
That's really a good observation there, Karen, because I think you nailed it exactly. It was jarring. It wasn't anything that was clearly normal or explainable. It was so out of, the realm of natural, I guess you could say, that everyone seemed to subtly agree or be on the same page that was not normal. That was something really strange. And we've all heard these stories, right, about ladies of the lake, and they're kind of near water, and it's there's a whole mythology behind it, and people see these all the time. And I did research on it later on when I grew up and was, not scared of it anymore. And it's not super uncommon to see this figure, this woman dressed in white, sometimes with her hair wet, near these cabin roads that are near lakes. Isn't that strange?
It is. You know what? Okay, we're back. You're making me want to look up Lady of the Lake, because I believe that's a big legend or a tale. But I don't know that I see, right now, especially where I live, because I'm not in a rich part of LA, I'm kind of in a iffy part. And I've seen 2 people walk past me in like the 10 years that I've lived here where something was so wrong with their eyes. And it's not a lazy eye or something like that, but when somebody's vacant or when something not human seems to be there. And I bet that, even the whole look, sort of the nightgown dress and the long hair and there's something about the look where you go, oh, that's not all intact.
Yeah. And I don't know if they even had a chance to get much eye contact or much of a facial expression. But it happened slowly enough that it, made a permanent impression, and quick enough that they, weren't sure what they had seen exactly, but other than they knew it was absolutely a young woman, and for sure it wasn't, a trick of the imagination. But yeah, later on I did read stories. There's lots and lots of accounts in Wisconsin, in fact, of this very thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that story needs no ending because it's creepy just to think about it. And it's like a thing that's in movies, because that is just when all you have is those headlights and there's somebody there. It's just terrifying. It's jarring. That's our word. We're going to use it.
Yeah. And we also, what makes this incredibly, believable is my aunt, not prone to exaggerate and was a very straightforward person. You don't have pranks and the internet, and someone was just doing something to get more Instagram hits. They planted themselves in the middle of a forest and wore a costume. People did not do that in the late 50s, early 60s. That was not something
right.
that people would do.
It wasn't popular. So, like now it's popular, so you have to check what's a fake. Well, okay. All right. Great story already right off the bat. Okay.
Well, that was the appetizer. So I will go into the next one, which is my brother. He is older than me, by about 16 years. I was a super happy surprise, we could say, when I came along, Karen. Just a beautiful little bundle and a great surprise to my mother at the age of 40. So anyway, my brother Greg, who is extremely logical, down to earth, spent his entire career as a teacher, just a very patient, left brain, oftentimes, creative guy, but oftentimes, just a very logical guy, definitely not prone to making stuff up again or getting excited. He, during college, was hanging out with some people. One of them was a college professor at San Diego State University, and they were probably having a couple glasses of wine here and there, but this was not, some 1960s LSD party. Okay. Nobody was on those kinds of drugs.
What do you mean 1960s? What about 2020?
Well, this would have actually been the 70s. So okay. We're now a little further along. Right. Uh-huh. And, so get this in your head, right? It's at his apartment or house, and there's a group of people, 7 or 8 people. And as the evening wears on, they played a few little games and hung out and had a great time. He brings out this bowl, and let me describe this. It is on a ornate base. It is that's like a reddish brown wooden kind of waxy base. The bowl is actually a tortoise shell that has been turned upside down, and it has been lined with silver. So it is what he referred to as a sacrificial bowl. He didn't go into details, but he did claim that bowl had once contained a human heart. Now, nobody freaked out and thought the guy was a murderer or part of some satanic cult. This is a very pragmatic dude. Mm-hmm. And maybe they got a heart from I don't know, I can't even imagine, you guys, but who knows? The medical building or a cadaver from below, I have no idea.
Well, but, it sounds like an Indiana Jones thing. Look, the Department of Science has bestowed upon me this magical bowl. Yes.
So he was not explaining where he got it from, who made it, where it came from, how old it was, and he certainly wasn't going into details about the heart, and he might have been embellishing that. Yes, even in the 70s, putting a human heart in a bowl is illegal. So they were playing this sort of game, if you will, where he was asking. By the way, and this is empty; it's not full of blood, and they're not wearing black robes. So the host, he was asking each person, "Hey, this is kind of fun. Let's turn the lights off. We'll light a little candle, and we'll tell kind of little ghost stories here. But here's what I want you to do." I want you to put your hands in the bowl, close your eyes, and we're just all going to be quiet here. And I want you to just describe the impressions that you get. And a couple people tried it and did it and weren't getting very much and were getting kind of creeped out by it. My brother, once again, being the equivalent, if we were on the Starship Enterprise, he would be Spock. That's my brother, right? Again, very logical. And he goes, "I'll give it a try." And everyone kind of laughed, thinking, "Oh, Greg, he's not going to see anything. he's just going to ask you more questions about how the bowl was made and where you got it from and what do you mean a human heart." So he puts his fingers in there and closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. And to hear my brother tell the story, Karen, when he closes his eyes, typically, he's not the kind of guy that can immediately start imagining things. Okay. What he sees is the back of his own eyelids. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's nothing there. Okay. So he gives it a minute, and it is about a minute. And then he goes, "Okay, I am seeing something." And the way he described it, he saw black and white stripes that started to slowly come into focus as if there was a bit of a fog. Then he recognized that these weren't stripes, these were trees, and he was in a forest. At least that's what it appeared to be. And he was impressed at how vivid it was and that it was actually coming into clarity, almost like a lucid dream where it's so vivid that you can't believe it's even in your brain, right? It's so detailed. Then he sees what looks like a shadow or a humanoid figure, someone who's at least standing on 2 legs and has 2 arms, and they're leaning in a very casual pose against one of the trees on their elbow, if you can picture that, you guys. So in his mind, he, zooms in a little bit, and okay, now I can kind of start to see some facial features. And the way he described it was, as he zoomed in on this person's face, it was male, and it appeared to have two tusks, almost like a wild boar, coming out of its bottom jaw. And he thought, wow, that's a detail that I would never have thought of or invented, just like, huh. So for him, it was happening in front of him. It didn't feel like it was coming from him. And as he's describing it, the host is getting more and more nervous and questioning him. And Greg just keeps his eyes shut, and he's actually getting kind of creeped out. And as it comes into more focus, he sees that it has a very wild tuft of hair that seems to be sticking almost straight up. He described it as maybe 6 to 8 inches, almost like a bristly halo of hair above its ears. And the more it came into clarity and the more color started to enter into the picture, it had a bright reddish brown hue to it. And that is when the guy who had hosted this party got pissed and started yelling at my brother. And so my brother opens his eyes and he's like, what? And he's like, hey, man, that is super uncool. And if you're not going to take this serious, that's one thing. But making fun of me and making fun of this is bullshit. And so what had happened? What had happened was my brother had perfectly described this sort of godlike demon entity that was very popular in the world of H.P. Lovecraft. Now, keep in mind, guys, H.P. Lovecraft, he's an author, right? Mm-hmm. But in the world of his mythology, this is a key figure and a really hideous, horrible demon. And he was convinced that Greg somehow knew that he was into H.P. Lovecraft and that kind of thing, and that this demon or entity had relevance in, Norse mythology and other things I can only imagine. And he just was convinced it was a big joke and funny to Greg and never spoke to him again. Basically wanted him to leave, and that was the end of it. So take what you will from it, but I can tell you this. My brother had none of that in his head. Didn't read H.P. Lovecraft. Never would just... Right now, if you ask my brother to close his eyes, again, he would see the backs of his eyelids.
Wow.
So don't know if he was channeling that guy, the energy, something about, what that guy believes in or his own personal mythology or fears. But it was uncanny. According to this guy, the description was too perfect, and it had to be my brother messing with him.
Well, now, and I have a quick question about that because I am really enjoying the HBO Lovecraft series. What was that? Was that a game? Was it just a book? Because that would lead me to believe that H.P. Lovecraft is dealing with real magic. Maybe this is a podcast in itself.
Sure. There's always been the insinuation that Lovecraft was tapped into secret societies, or was at least familiar with, Satanism and cults and ancient mythology. And that's what he was maybe drawing upon, when he was coming up with these creatures. So hard to say, go look them up, but, yeah.
But it was books, right? It was books.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say of course. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the main characters that he had come up with, of course, is the one that we all love to make fun of, which is Cthulhu. So
I'm not aware. I missed the Cthulhu boat. Tell me about Cthulhu.
Oh, Cthulhu is big in the Scientology.
Okay.
Religion? Question mark. Anyway, we'll leave it there.
See, everything comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Everything comes from somewhere. There's all this stuff about, did Stephen King predict coronavirus and all these other things? Everything comes from somewhere. There's a pot of what I call imagination that is real things that we reach into. Fascinating. And the guy never spoke to your brother again.
No, he was deeply angered and offended, absolutely convinced that this was a personal attack on him and whatever he either believed in or was experienced with or whatever, and could not ever be convinced otherwise. So, yeah, super strange. But again, these are just kind of odd tales from the unknown, right? That
I'm completely in love with them. So I always can rely on you for great stories. And, have you been watching the HBO Lovecraft one?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I did hear, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. It's not a spoiler alert. I heard that it goes off in directions that aren't quite as satisfactory, and sometimes it's just shock value stuff for the sake of it. So I'll be the judge of that. I'm not going to be deterred by critics. I'll give it a shot.
Right.
It does sound fascinating. So
I have a theory about that too, which is they're going to pull it all together in the end because I think
you hope
Peele, he's too smart. But that's like I just started Fargo again, and every time I start the new season of Fargo, I go, "Oh, not going to be as good as the last." And then like the third episode, I'm like, "This is so great." But the one thing I love about the Lovecraft one that's on HBO right now, it's just like all white people are bad. All white people are bad. There's no it's just kind of funny. It's just like
that is a somewhat of a theme with Jordan Peele as of late. But
you know what? Let him have it because it's like I'm way off on a tangent now. But there's certain shows there's a couple of shows that I love, and I get very sad that they don't have more females on. And I just have this like when I'm a movie. There's a movie I'd love to see that I can't see that's a great comedy movie because I'm like, no women, because you always think it's the dumb guys that aren't putting us in, but then this movie is by a couple of geniuses and they don't want us in either. So I'd imagine that forever Black people must have been like, oh, we'll never be in that movie. So it's
of course.
Yeah,
of course.
But it's beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. So you're going to love it.
And not at all to get sidetracked on that theme, but that is a incredibly valued, an incredibly poignant point there, because if you're a white male like myself, you wouldn't really notice those things, and you would go your whole life not even being aware of it. And let's be honest, if
white
you're
female too, or any,
you just a white, sure, you just wouldn't be aware of the plight of Asians that can't get apart, if it was Hollywood, a Black person that can't get apart, and to your excellent point, women, or if they get apart, they're paid at a dramatically different pay scale and aren't allowed to have creative input unless you're somehow Mary Tyler Moore and just insisted on it.
Right.
So it's just out of sight, out of mind for most people. And that's what makes people go, gosh, what's with all of this, hubbub and these protests? Well, you don't have any back history on it. You've never experienced any of this. So it's like you're watching a movie that you don't understand, but this isn't a new thing. It's been going on for a long time, and there's a big story behind this that you're just unaware of, apparently.
Right.
So,
and
anyway.
Also, and it's just, and show business is just hard. That's it.
Yep.
But
that's just above and beyond anything else. It's hard just in general. Just forget everything we just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even all things being created equal, which they aren't, it's hard.
Right. So anyways, okay. So you have a third. I'm so excited. I'm always so happy to talk to you. Hit me.
Sure. So the third one I saved, because of all of them, this one's the most disturbing. And so this one comes from my cousin. She is, and again, I love the sources on these. She is, again, much like my brother, very left brain, extremely pragmatic, very calm and logical on her approach on life. She spent years and years and years helping addicts, working in methadone clinics. She's seen all kinds of drama, trauma, and ridiculousness. And again, always the steady person that is the calming force that can, be in the middle of a fire on top of an earthquake with a tidal wave coming in and going, all right, everybody, let's get this organized. We have about 30 seconds. That's her. Okay. So, my recollection was when she was in nursing school. There was a dormitory set up, housing for the students, that were learning nursing. And there was a girl that was a friend, not a good friend, not a close friend of my cousin's, and same age. They would have been in their 20s. And lots of girls living in this little dormitory area, little bedrooms that were quadrant off, and there was just not like bunk beds in a single room, but I think each person did get their own little room with a bed. That's important for a second here because I think this was a house that had been converted into rooms, and it was an old house. So this house wasn't like newly built tract home. It was probably already 60 or 70 years old. And again, this would be back in the early 70s, I believe. And so one of the girls, out of the many that slept in other rooms of the house, started, after a couple of days of moving in there, waking up always at the same time. I believe it was, 3 o'clock or 3:15 in the morning, suffocating, couldn't breathe, absolutely pressure on her chest, fighting for air, and having to kind of get enough courage to bolt upright and then start gasping and forcing air into her lungs. And the first couple times this happened, of course, and especially being a nurse in training, thinking, well, man, there must be a logical reason for this. And so surrounded by nurses, doing nursing training, everyone had an opinion on what it could be. But this is a perfectly healthy girl, no previous problems with respiratory issues. There's nothing in this room that is weird or strange. It's just very normal. And so having never had any breathing problems before, and the moment she wakes up and can start to gasp for air, she feels like she's going to be okay again. She feels like it's an anomaly, but then it happens again and again and again. And then the fact that it keeps happening at the exact same time at night or morning, now it's an issue, right? And again, the way she describes it is you can't breathe. You feel a pressure on your chest. Then it got worse, where she was actually describing being pinned to the bed, having her arms pinned to her sides. She could almost feel the breath of whatever it was breathing on her, as if it was sitting on her chest and pinning her arms to the side. It culminated in her, maybe the 4th or 5th time this happened, opening her eyes, which she couldn't do initially. She was just paralyzed, and seeing floating above her bed an absolutely visible greenish black mist. She could see it in 3-dimensional space. It wasn't smoke. It was a cloud. It was a sort of almost a shimmery greenish black viscousy looking mist that was above the bed. And of course, that's that. She's out of there. I mean, I think a lot of, and people might ask, well, why did she wait 3 or 4 times before she left? You're highly stressed. You're on financial assistance. You're trying desperately to be a nurse. Mm-hmm. You've only got so much time to complete courses. You're sleep deprived. You're, all these reasons. I'm sure she was just like, I just got to get through this and get through this class. And, all the logical things you think of. Yeah. And that was weird. It's probably a nightmare. It'll never happen again.
People always think it's stress or it's you're under too much pressure or something like that. Yeah. Ugh.
And so once again, because my cousin knew her, not on drugs, not a person that is known to do drugs, certainly wasn't on drugs when it was happening, no medical history that would ever be anything like this. And of course, the fact that it's happening at the exact same time, these are all reasons to kind of get shivers down your spine and think, oh my God, yes. What is this? So I haven't told you the twist, and there's a good one on this one. So she moves out, and it isn't until weeks later that the landlord raises the issue with the woman who owns the house. And the woman who owns the house is definitely distraught and asks who this girl was. And they tell her name. And then the shit hits the fan. This woman who owned the house said that, yes, there was a death in the house. It was a man who had strangled his wife and killed her in her sleep. And the wife's name was an unusual Victorian name, Simeon, Simeon, which is sometimes a man's name, but this is the name, Simeon. And guess who has the exact same name?
The girl that was under attack?
Yep.
Oh, I got the chills on that. Was there any other activity, or was that it?
That's it.
You know, I have a theory on that. Oh, I'm getting the chills all over. Wow. I think the husband that killed the wife was under the influence of whatever that thing was. I know I'm making a huge leap here, but usually a dark mist like that is like the worst of the worst and probably doesn't have human components to it.
Right.
So that's freaky. Oh, that one really got me. Oh my God, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I know. It's chilling. And you can kind of see why these might have stuck in my head over the years, because I'm a big person. If you've listened to any of our previous podcasts where Karen and I got to talk about, secrets that the government doesn't talk about, UFOs, the history of the military-industrial complex, things like that, I always go by human witness testimony and whether or not it's coming from a vetted person who you can trust. And I just think that people overlook reliable human witness testimony, and it's very easy to discount it because what they're describing doesn't make any sense, but it's often overlooked. And so these are 3 little tales of the unknown from people that I trust who were there. So
Jeff, A+ as always. As always, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can watch your fantastic web series. Put it all out there. Oh,
sure. Well, so if anyone's interested, I'm going to be doing a new season of it, but you can always go onto YouTube and look up Majestic 12. Majestic 12 is a fun little science fiction comedy show. Each episode's about 3 minutes, and had a really fun time doing that. If you want to check out a music project that I did that talks about all kinds of weird tales from the unknown and UFOs and ET, and it's a great little website that not only explains what all these different songs mean, but they're fun songs to listen to. You can go to www.thejrods.com, thejrods.com. And thanks again, Karen, as always. Always fun to get this off my chest and tell other people the stuff that's, bumping around in my head.
Yeah, we need a show on sci-fi. We need a talk show on sci-fi. And I'm the one that goes way off into craziness, and you pull me back down to earth.
Which is saying something when you hear the stuff I'm saying, right? That is, if I'm the guy that's the guiding light here that keeps us grounded, then I'm worried for both of us. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. Hey, everybody. Also, I don't know if Jeff was on the week before or the week after, but you don't want to miss his episode with the Anunnaki. He's always great. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you have a great holiday. Stay safe. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. We will see you all next week.
Bigfoot's alive. He don't wanna be found. Just a Patterson pick and a track on the ground. Angels above, fly a disc in the sky. They laugh from the clouds at the monkey man lie. Call it crazy, move to angry cries. Nothing will change until those Luddites die. The 40 Times knows what Kennedy knows. It was MJ-12 and the UFOs. Fear from inside makes no sound.
in the dark, like a voodoo hound. Call it crazy, move to angry cries. Nothing will change until those Luddites die. Time slips like chips down the lane. Joe comes when death brings that dead away.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Nothing to hide and nowhere to go. When the curtains rise on the Earth's freak show, call it crazy, move to angry cries. Nothing will change until those Luddites die.